it kind of defeats the purpose, right? I'm coming to you and I'm saying like, I have severe depression and anxiety and like suicidal thoughts. And you're going to say, well, like maybe if you went on walks, you would be happier. Like maybe if you like went and like, like maybe if you did this, this, and this, like you'd be happy. Like, why can't you just smile a little more? Why can't you just be like, it's not gonna, it kind of defeats the purpose. Like I'm telling you who I am and you're telling me how to fix who I am. But I don't want to be fixed because like my whole situation brought me to here today. And I'm like, I won't say I'm really happy all the time, but I'm like I've kind of figured out what I want in life, and I wouldn't have gotten here without having gone through what I did.
Welcome to Tad Voices. I'm Nick.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Lawson. And we're friends who are here to talk about mental health.
We are by no means experts in this field, nor is this a substitute for professional help, but we can promise open and vulnerable conversations that highlight the strength of some amazing people who have decided to share their story with us.
Talk, share, help, and thanks for listening.
We now welcome to the podcast Sophie Dietz. Sophie is the founder of Anna B. Jew jewelry line and is currently working and living in New York City. She was originally born in Boston, Massachusetts before living in Paris, France for 12 years. Sophie attended Connecticut College where she studied economics and French before graduating in 2015. We are so excited to have one of the newest mental health advocates to the podcast, Sophie Dietz.
Thank you.
Before anything else, we want to get into why we're all here today. So I'd like to open the floor to you, Sophie, to talk about yourself and your jewelry line and the association with TAD.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I'm so excited to be talking to you guys and everyone who's listening. Basically, I've been working on my line, which has had several names, but has landed on Anna Bijou for about 2 years, kind of as like a hobby. And I loved making jewelry mostly because it was a way for me to kind of escape any sort of like things I had going on in my life. If I was anxious, I could just kind of sit in my room and play with my hands and make some jewelry and like just make bracelets. And it was really like that, just a hobby. During COVID, during quarantine, I kind of had a lot of time on my hands, as we all did. And I started kind of looking into like how you actually make the jewelry and a little more deeply into like what I could make and how I could make it more like long lasting or what kind of materials I should use. And this was all really just like helping me kind of escape what I had going on in terms of like mental health. And so this line has always meant a lot to me, but no one else has really known like why it meant what it did to me. So I was just sitting on Metro North one day and I thought about how I was like thinking a lot about my mental health struggle and what I had been through. And I had been more vocal about what I was like, what I had been through like suicide, through depression and anxiety for so many years. I had thought about it a lot more recently. And I was thinking about how in the holidays, it's always really hard for people to go home or like even just like be with their family. Sometimes they don't have like a family situation that everyone else has. And sometimes it's just hard. Like sometimes you're just like depressed and you don't want to talk to anyone and you're just having a hard day. And I wanted to kind of remind myself that like I was there for myself, and I wanted to remind people that like we're all there for them, and like you should always just like only be yourself and trying to really just embrace your mental health struggle or like embrace someone that you love that has dealt with mental health. So I kind of always want to remind myself that I can only be me. And I started thinking about like how I wanted to maybe make something that was a little more meaningful. So I came out with this line called I Am Me, which is exactly that. Just being yourself and embracing yourself. It took me a really, really, really long time to like actually like myself for like everything I had been through. I was embarrassed so much about like, you will read more about it in my story, but I was like really embarrassed that I had like been suicidal. I was really embarrassed that I was like depressed. I was really embarrassed that I had like gone to a group. I was really embarrassed that I had like was this person that wasn't perfect. I was like, no one's gonna love me. I'll never get a boyfriend. Like they're not gonna like understand. I was always second guessing every single thing that was happening, and I was always so uncomfortable with who I am. And so I think finally coming to like the realization that you only have one life and you really are only ever going to be that one person. So you have to just kind of remind yourself through your highs, through your lows, through like the horrible moments, through the great moments, through your happiest moments, like through those minutes that you're actually smiling when you feel like you can't ever smile. Like there's minutes that you feel like you want to smile, there's minutes that you don't want to smile. You know, I'm going on a tangent, but just always embracing and loving yourself. And I really wanted to create something that people could give to a loved one who maybe forgets that, or like just wear it and like look down and be like, wow, like wait, like this is a message that kind of resonates with me. And it has translated into more than just that one slogan. Like I have necklaces that, or like bracelets that mean something that don't necessarily have the slogan, but like are supposed to always kind of be a reminder of that. So I really wanted to like create something within a line that meant so much to me, that had gotten me through so much mental health stuff. I wanted to kind of create something for actually mental health and like really raising awareness about mental health. And that all prompted me to want to write out my story and share it. I shared it with like a few close friends for like grammatical errors. And they were kind of like, we never even knew this. Like they were like kind of shocked, and they were just like, I didn't really realize how deep it was, and how I never knew this one moment in your life, which is what I wrote about. So I think it was helpful for them to kind of see me in a deeper light. And I really wanted to like share the story with more people, just so that it could kind of just raise awareness about suicide and depression, and how important it is to kind of actually talk about these issues. But I knew that I didn't really have this sort of like mental health following, and I wasn't really a mental health organization. So I actually grew up with Nick on Martha's Vineyard, and had seen a lot of the posts on TAD, and like thought that the work was really amazing. I had read his story, and I was just really inspired by the work. And I thought, you know what, like I'll just like shoot my shot and see if maybe like they would be open to working with me. And I'm a small jewelry brand. Like I literally like, this is my side hustle. So like, it's like really not, I'm not like established yet, but I was really excited to kind of like, just talk to you guys and just work with you guys to kind of just be able to tell my story, in hopes that the people and your followers are able to see something of that, maybe themselves in the story, and just realize that they're not alone. Because when I finally got like help, like I finally went to like an actual outpatient group where I sat in a room with like 15 people who were exactly like me, and worse, some better, some in different stages of their recovery. Like that was when I really didn't feel alone, was when I actually had other people there saying, I understand what you're going through. Like I'm just looking at me and saying like, I don't know you, I don't know your story, I don't know anything about you, but like I'm here with you and I understand you, and you can't change who you are. And that was like when I really started to realize this has like changed my life. Just like talking to someone else who understands me has like changed my life. So I think what you guys are doing is so amazing, because like you're sharing these stories that people who don't have any connection to the person in the story maybe are reading it and realizing like, wow, this person is just like me and I'm not alone. And I hope that's what my jewelry can bring to some people, but in a more like larger scheme way. I really want to be able to work with an organization that cares about and that is bringing to light these stories, because it's so important to talk about.
We're so happy to be working with you as well. And Sophie touched on it a little bit, but while this episode's airing, Sophie will be sharing her story on TAD's webpage, on our Instagram account, and we will be hopeful that our followers, our listeners, will be sure to check her jewelry line out and think of their loved ones, think of themselves during the holidays, and hopefully, support another organization that's fighting the same fight that we are, and hoping that to create conversation around mental health. And I think you touched on something really interesting when, not only do sometimes people not want to go home for the holidays, but when they go home for the holidays, it could be the most judgmental time for them, and not wanting to share with people and trying to protect people that mean so much to them. And hopefully somebody can wear the jewelry proudly and walk into a room, and when asked a question, what is that, why does it say I am me, they can have a conversation about it, and continue to sort of break down the barriers that surround mental health. So sort of the goal here is to, along with this episode, Sophie will be sharing her story. We will have links to her website where you can browse and purchase the jewelry. And from there, we hope to encourage others to also share their story. TAD's blog is, open to anybody. So please reach out to either, Sophie or the three of us here on the podcast, or the TAD account, and help share the story. But I'll sort of turn it over to Katie and Lawson here. But thank you again, Sophie, for doing all that you're doing and jumping in the trenches with us to hopefully engage in a conversation that's really meaningful, especially at this time of the year. So thanks.
Thank you, Sophie. And one thing that I am really inspired by is there's a couple different avenues that jewelry for you that jewelry presented it, for itself. And one was just, as a coping mechanism to escape. And to really help deal with some of the mental health struggles you were going through. And so I think, the other piece of that too is we talk a lot on this podcast about, working internally and finding strategies to help with sort of that internal challenge and struggle. And what I love about this is it's an external representation, right? It's something that can bring you confidence or a visible reminder about, how strong you can be and what you're going through and those challenges you might be facing, but able to get through it and cope with it. And so that physical, visible piece to me feels like a really powerful part of this. And, I love what you said, you look down and you see those reminders. That visibility piece is huge. And so thank you for bringing that new aspect a little bit to TAT.
And I feel like we all I feel like people who have, some people who have been through these things, they have those things that they have that favorite sweater, or they have that piece, that's something that they've worn, or something that they've seen, or a song that they've listened to that has been an internal reminder of or an external and internal reminder of a bad time or something that they've been through that's reminded them that they can be stronger. So I feel like there are these pieces of that we've had throughout a mental health journey that have allowed you to kind of remember this is the song that I listened to when I was depressed in my bed, and this, and I love it, but it reminds me of this time, but I also remember that I woke up the next morning and I was okay. There are those there's those things and I'm hoping that this could be one of them for someone who maybe doesn't already have that.
Yeah, and that's something that we've talked about too within this podcast. So, whether it's a specific object or it could even be a journal or something like that, but just having those physical reminders, I guess, of kind of showing your progression and how far you've come. I think that's something that's really important. And kind of before I get into my question, just kind of want to echo, the words of Nick and Katie. But no, we definitely appreciate you sharing your story. And the one thing that you touched on that I think is, so important, and it's another thing we've talked about a little bit. It's been awesome, I think, as of late too. There's influencers, celebrities, or athletes who are coming out and sharing their stories, and it's fantastic because they do have large platforms and large followings. And I know you mentioned that you might not quite be there yet anyways, but I think in a lot of ways that's even more powerful because it's somebody that you can relate to, I think, a little more closely a lot of the time. So I think we need more people like yourself, being vulnerable and coming out and telling your story. So we really appreciate that here at TAD. And, hopefully that's the trend going forward. But kind of the one thing that I wanted to ask, you mentioned, coming to kind of a realization where you allowed yourself to kind of be, unapologetically yourself and being okay with that and not being embarrassed. So maybe if you could take our listeners through a little bit, kind of what led you to that realization. Was it maybe a specific moment or a specific instance?
Two things, I guess. I would say when I got, I've always had depression and anxiety since I was probably 7. It's been a very long time, but I didn't actually start seeing a therapist until I was in college. But I moved to Boston after I graduated from college, and I, it's always the same thing. There's one really small thing that happens in your life when you have these tendencies of depression and anxiety. Something very small can trigger something very large. So I had something very small happen to me that I really just it affected me in the most horrible way possible. And you'll read about a moment in my story a little more, but that was when I sort of realized I needed to get help after I had a pretty horrible day. And I went to get help, and it wasn't until I was still I was open with my anxiety, and people could tell that I was depressed because I was having a really hard time at work. I was having a really hard time focusing. I was really only there from 9 to 5, and then I was crying or sleeping for the other hours. And I was not really happy going out. I wasn't happy with my friends. It was just a horrible situation. And so I went to group and I met these people that I have I have the best friends in the world. My friends are my family. I don't have a very big family, so my friends really are my family. But these people, my friends never understood what I was going through. They were there for me and they listened, but they didn't really understand in depth what it was like to feel this way. When I went to this group, they understood me. I've never these people. I haven't spoken to some of them in years, but I still hold such a special spot in my heart. When I graduated, they call it, from the group, I had heard stories, I had seen things that I like would never be able to think negatively towards mental health ever again. Like, you always sort of like, when you have a mental health issue, you are very like kind of a little more skeptical or a little like meaner about it, maybe because it's a defense mechanism for yourself. But I could never in my life think badly towards someone that had any sort of mental disorder. And I understood them in such a different way. Like, it was becoming so much more of a deeper cause for me that I really started to embrace this mental health journey. And I really started to embrace myself for it. And then so that was one prong of it, just going to group and actually meeting people like me. And that's why I think this is so great, because I feel like I didn't have this sort of an outlet when I was going through what I was going through, because I didn't really there was no blog that was sort of like telling everyone else's story. Like, I really thought that I was alone. And so when I was going to group and I had these people telling me their story, like, I felt so connected to them. So I think this blog would sort of give that similar effect. I think the next thing that happened, which sounds kind of cliche, but I met someone that did not care that I was like depressed, did not care that I had been suicidal, like just like really appreciated me for who I am. And in that moment, I was kind of able to just be like, this isn't who I am then. Like, this, I wasn't really trying to impress anyone anymore. I wasn't really trying to like prove myself. I was comfortable in my job. I was comfortable in my relationship, and I kind of was able to sort of come out and just be like, this is what I am and this is what I stand for. I've definitely still like had sort of anxiety in talking about this stuff around parents or like people that I don't know, like figures at work, like mentioning these sorts of things. It's like, it's so stigmatized that you're embarrassed to say like, yeah, I was suicidal. And you shouldn't be, because like, it's amazing that you're here today, and like amazing that you sit here and do your job and be this great person. So I feel like when I met someone that really supported me, and when I had done this group, I was really able to kind of like appreciate myself for who I am. But those are kind of the two moments that made it happen.
No, it's fantastic, and we appreciate you opening up like that.
I don't want to say that like you have to be in a supportive relationship to be able to find yourself in this way and to be yourself fully. I think that I look back and I think like I've just found the right relationship, so maybe that's why I'm able to be myself fully. But I really do think that like finding people that understood who I was and were able to kind of tell me that there were other people there that were like me in the world, that's when I was like had met like kind of my group, and I was like, you know what, these are people that are like me, and like I don't have to be like anyone else, and I can just be like me. And so I think that is really like the moment for me. And I think today I'm able to talk about it so much because I have a really strong support system in like a relationship and in all my friends, and like I've never felt unsupported. And I think that it's also really important that we're there for those who aren't supported in the same way. And this blog and those groups, those sorts of like, that gives that support system that some people might not have.
No, I thought you said something super interesting, and just like the anxiety about like talking to somebody, like family, friends, parents, like whoever you're sort of like talking to about it, and you have this anxiety, like, oh, what are these people going to think? Like, I know that I have something in mind, but do you have something in mind of like how like others can like break that tension, or like allow you to feel like more comfortable in that situation, where if like somebody asks you a question and it goes there, like they almost need to be like, they're not on the hook for it, but like they need to be able to not, I think what got us to this point of like this, like it being so stigmatized, people have these questions or like something like this comes up and they immediately turn and like run away. And so like, do you have something that you're looking for, like even not like looking for, but even at like the worst, the bare minimum, like what somebody can say to you to just break some tension and like allow you to feel comfortable?
I think I'm here for you is like amazing. I'm sorry to hear you went through that. Like, I hope you know I'm here for you. I understand. I hear you. I'm with you. It's scary though, because like I've been with people that I know very well don't understand. In conversations, I hear the way they talk about people with mental health. Like, it's like, you know, that there are some people there who really don't understand what's going on, and they really don't think of it as like what it is, which is just a mishap in your brain. It's not the person, it's not who they are. It's a brain issue. That's all it is really in my mind, and you can't really change it, and you can only like work with it. So I think that I understand when people are anxious to talk to people because they don't know how they're going to react. And I haven't been I'm sure I hope a lot of people will listen to this, and some of them may know me, so they might not know all these things. So now you do. But I think that when you're kind of in that moment, just saying like, hey, I'm here for you, is like the easiest way to, or like, I didn't know that. I'm so sorry that you went through that. Like, I'm here. Because you're not going to change their brain. You're not going to like fix it. You're not going to like, I think very like pessimistically, I guess, sometimes about this stuff. When I'm down, and like, you could say it to me, like, how could just be happy? Like, how are you going to be happy? And I would just be like, I'm not. So like, today is my down day. And like, you're going to need to just like sit with me, let me be alone, or just like, just, you can say it. We don't have to hang out today, but I'm here for you. If you need me, you can call me, but you don't have to. Because sometimes, people don't want to talk about it, but when they do, I think just like saying those words is really helpful. And it's so simple, but like, you don't really need to give a whole explanation, and just kind of be there to listen.
I guess, yeah, and I think that's, because a lot of the times too, they're not easy conversations, right? And you can catch somebody off guard, because a lot of the times, everybody displays their emotions differently. And like you said, like some of your friends would have had no idea what you were going through, or they can't necessarily relate. So I think that's some good advice for our listeners too, just to, not that, the approach will be the same way for everybody, but I think that's kind of a good foundation, if you will, to just make sure that the other person knows that you're kind of open to listening, that you're there. And while you may not be able to, completely understand what they're going through, at the same time, you can just kind of lend a hand and be an ear and support them and hear them out. So I think that's a really good point that you make.
And too, I would say, like, let them know that you're there. Exactly. And that, like, if they want to talk to you, that you're here to talk. But I would wait. I guess when I've really spoken about it with people, it's been on like long walks or serious conversations that I felt like I had to explain this part of my life to someone, because when you go through like depression and anxiety, there's going to be days that someone might not understand why you're really down, or why you're really anxious, or why you're feeling a certain way. And I think just continuing to like say to that person, like, I'm here for you. And if you really want to talk about it, like, you can call me, I'll come over. That was kind of, I loved my friends, because when I was going through those really dark days, like, they were there. They like showed up at my door, which wasn't exactly what I needed, but they did it. And I think that just like kind of showing that like they're going to be there and that they're not going anywhere is really helpful. Some people need that more than others, but like, you'll know your friend well enough to know like the way that they want to be supported. Sorry.
Yeah, and I think a commonality between what you and Lawson are both talking about is you don't need to fix it, right? Like, I think a lot of people get into this mindset of like, when problem solving, right? Like, everybody feels like they need to solve a problem that immediate second, and it's like, no, like, a lot of these things like have been like festering for years. Like, it's not going to, like, this person 6 years in, you're not going to solve this problem, right? And just sort of almost like leaning into it and being like, I'm so sorry, that sucks. And just like being there to like actually like prove that like you've listened to like what they've said, and you've not been like trying to think of a way to like, you hear like XYZ comes out of the person's mouth, and then all of a sudden for the next like, 3/4 of the conversation, you're just trying to think of a solution rather than actually like hearing the words that they're saying, right? Like, I think actually listening and doing your best to like comprehend, potentially like not going through it, but like what people have gone through, and then just sympathizing with them and being empathetic and just saying like, that really sucks, I'm so sorry, but like, I don't know how to help. But well, one, there's Tad, and but two, right, like, I think like, I don't know how to help, but I'm here for you, and if you need to help find resources, like I'm willing to help with that process. So I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that was great.
It also kind of like defeats the purpose. Like, my mental health, like, everyone's mental health is different. So like, what I need for myself is going to be different what someone else needs for themselves, but I can only speak from my personal opinion on it. But it kind of defeats the purpose, right? I'm coming to you and I'm saying like, I have severe depression and anxiety and like suicidal thoughts. And you're going to say, well, like, maybe if you went on walks, you would be happier. Like, maybe if you like went and like, like, maybe if you did this, and this, like, you'd be happy. Like, why can't you just smile a little more? Why can't you just be like, if that's not, I'm not coming to you and telling you what I need for myself. I know what I need for myself. I've kind of like been through it, and I know like that tomorrow I'll be a little happier. I know that tomorrow the sun will shine a little different, but I don't need you to tell me how to fix this. I just need you to sit with me and say like, why do you feel that way? Or like, what are you going through? Or like, did something happen that triggered it? Or that's okay, nothing happened. Like, that's fine. Like, just be supportive, because it kind of defeats the purpose. Like, I'm telling you who I am and you're telling me how to fix who I am. I don't want to be fixed, because like my whole situation brought me to here today. And I'm like, I won't say I'm really happy all the time, but I'm like I've kind of figured out what I want in life, and I wouldn't have gotten here without having gone through what I did. So by saying, I think but it's common, like you said, Nick, like it's common. You want to like fix it, and you want to like have a game plan, and you want to like, you love this person, so you want to make sure that they're happy, and you want to like change everything and make them happy. But like, they might not need you to make them happy. They might just like want to be sitting with you in silence, and that's all they need. So I think just kind of like being there, it's all you can do. It's like the easiest thing, but sometimes the hardest thing.
And it's like holding space for you to just be, right? Like holding that space because I feel like often that fixing is, okay, you just brought this information into the space I'm in. I'm uncomfortable with it, or like I am having a hard time sitting with it. Let's fix this and close that space, right? And close that like portion of what we're sitting with. And so I think being able to hold space for people, no matter who they are, right? And no matter what they're bringing to the table, just letting them be and exist in that realm, and support them through that, and just step to the side and stand with you rather than in front of you telling you to come with me, like just standing next to you shoulder to shoulder. Yeah,
That's kind of the whole point of like TAD and of I Am Me, I guess, is to like really just be yourself, and like see that people embrace you for who you are, and like have these people embrace you for who you are, and not be wanting to fix anything, but just literally just standing with you in solidarity and understanding that you can go through things and still be human, and still be a good person, and still be nice, and still be fun, and still want to go out. But like, you can also be going through things, and people should be able to understand that these people are normal people sometimes.
Definitely, and those are all good points. But one thing that I kind of want to ask is, as Tad and Anna Bijou kind of joined forces, is there kind of one, if you could put maybe a goal on it, or just one overall thought of what you want to accomplish with us working together, what do you think that would be?
I think I think that I want to reach new people who might, like, not just in terms of myself. I want to reach new people who like don't know about this mission, but also maybe don't know about you guys. I wanted to kind of just like really be able to raise awareness about this issue. And I thought that doing it with a great charity was a great way to do it, because you're taking away from this jewelry and sales and whatever, and marketing and everything like that. And you're moving it towards what it really is supposed to be. This campaign is not supposed to be about like me selling jewelry. It's supposed to be about people getting something for someone that they love, or getting something for themselves that they love that reminds them who they are. And you guys are kind of doing the same thing. Like, you're giving this resource for people to be able to reach out to people that they love, or reach people that they love, and kind of also remind people that they can only be who they are. So I kind of thought that it was like the perfect marriage in this moment, and that it was a good way to kind of work together to sort of raise this awareness and reach different groups of people. So like, my followers are more like looking to buy jewelry, but might also be going through these things. Your followers are more mental health, but maybe want to have those things that sort of remind them that they can only be who they are, or buy these things for their loved ones. Obviously, would also love to donate to a great cause. That's the market.
We thank you so much for thinking of us. And quick PSA for everybody is, one, I think check in on people, obviously this time of the year. I think when this episode will be dropping, we'll be getting, right around the holiday, season, or right in the middle of it. So please check in with somebody, maybe somebody that you haven't connected with in a while. And like Sophie said, ask how they're doing, and really listen. And if it need help finding resources, obviously we're here at TAD. And, going forward, I think, again, as you know, this episode drops, Sophie's story will be up on our blog. Anna B. Jew website will be on our Instagram and on our website as well. So please be sure to check that out and take advantage of this time, right? Like there's a lot going on, not only with mental health, but it's definitely magnified with the situation within the country and COVID and internationally. So make sure that you're checking in with people and doing your part, because obviously this is could be a very stressful time for some and very happy time for others. So just make sure we're being empathetic and, trying to touch people that mean something to us. So anything else?
No, I just want to say, Sophie, thanks so much for coming on and speaking to us. Just in the way you speak, we can all hear how passionate you are about trying to make a difference as well. So we're really excited just to work together, and it'll be an exciting venture for sure. So we thank you so much.
Thanks, Sophie.
Thank you. I'm so excited to work with you guys and really make a difference.